One day, son, this mortgage will be all yours.
This program is brought to you by ANZ.
Hello and welcome. You're part of an audience around about 350 million worldwide to look at the 17th and the final round of the 1997 World Formula One Championship. Tonight, a new world champion will be crowned as we bring you live coverage of the European Grand Prix from Jerez. Now, AJ, this is it, the shootout, final race. What a scenario.
Unbelievable. You couldn't get a bit... Well, you could actually get a better scenario. You could have Eddie Irvine next to Frentzen on the second row, but apart from that, you couldn't write a better script.
Qualifying, something else.
Unbelievable. 3 cars with identical times. Quite extraordinary. Let's have a look at qualifying with Peter Nugent.
In the build-up to the race that will decide this year's World Championship, the pressure on the contenders is starting to show. During the morning practice session, Jacques Villeneuve's flying lap of the Jerez circuit was thwarted by the Ferrari of Eddie Irvine. As the Ferrari number 2 returned to his garage, a seething Villeneuve stormed up and told the Irishman what he thought of his driving style. But the real drama of the day came on the track. The Williams driver, who trails Michael Schumacher by 1 point in the title fight, posted the quickest qualifying time, 1 minute 21.072. Incredibly, the dual world champion matched his rival's time to the 1/1000th of a second. The feat left Schumacher shaking his head in amazement. But then Williams number 2, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, posted an identical time. The 3 drivers could not be split, Villeneuve claiming the pole because he clocked the fastest time first. Beside him on the front row will be Schumacher.
It's very surprising, but you know, I guess it's the best way to have the last qualifying of the season, mostly that we're fighting for the championship. The surprising thing for us is we got our best lap on the first run, and normally that's my slowest run of the day. So today was different, but it's a good thing that we did that run. The track was quicker at the beginning of the session.
I knew that I was doing a 21.0, and I didn't know obviously whether it was up front or just behind him. When I came then in and I looked on the computer, I couldn't believe myself that it was exactly the same time. Obviously then with Heinz-Harald later on. Obviously it proves that competition is on a very high level and can't be closer than that.
Well, there you go. Quite extraordinary. Villeneuve, Schumacher, Frentzen, all on the same time. Great effort from Damon Hill, utilising the bridgestones around this tight, twisty circuit. Hakkinen 5th, Coulthard 6th. Eddie Irvine down there in 7th place. Berger 8th, Panis, Lacey, Magnussen, Barrichello, 2 teammates together. Deniz, Herbert, Nakano, Ralph Schumacher in 11th, Fisichella, his teammate in 17th, and Fontana 18th. Katayama, Marquez, Salo and Verstappen brings up 22nd spot.
I know that's happened before further down the grid, but I think it's probably the first time that a front row and the first car in the second row have all qualified right on the same time. Just amazing.
Well, as Schumacher said, to come in and say, how did I go, and then find out that Villeneuve's grabbed pole from him on exactly the same time, and then to look to see that Frentzen's done the same thing, I mean...
Extraordinary.
Oh, it is.
I'd like to say hello to our Queensland viewers as they join us now. If you've just joined us, we have 3 cars in identical times. Villeneuve on pole, right beside him, the arch enemy, of course, the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher, and sitting in behind them is Frentzen in the other Williams. and he's in, of course, third place, but all identical time. Nice to have you with us, Queensland. Murray Walker and Martin Brundle are bringing us the action. What action it's going to be. Buckle up, Australia. This is going to be a ripper.
Light up the rear tyres, an early opportunity to get some temperature in them.
So you can see it's a nice wide open circuit. They're approaching the fastest part of the track now, out of turn 4, down the pretty long 185 mile an hour straight into turn 5, the right-hander that they're coming to now. Very barren countryside this, but they sweep left now around turns at 6 and 7, building up to 165 miles an hour during the race, up to the first of the 2 right-handers that follow. It's Angel Nito corner, and it's named after the great Spanish motorcycle 125cc multiple world champion. This is turn 8.
Well, Villeneuve once again backing the grid up very, very early. Look, it's a snail's pace as they're through that small right-hander heading towards the Ayrton Senna chicane, and he really wants to keep those cars neat and tight behind him so that he doesn't sit on the grid too long and have any kind of overheating engine, because the engine tends to spit out a little bit of water, and you don't want that at all. You really want to keep the temperatures down as much as possible. Now he's giving it some welly again to generate some rear tyre temperature, and he'll hit the brakes very hard, and then really that's his last opportunity before the line. He'll just keep squirting the throttle to try to, as I say, that's the best way. You've got 750 horsepower underneath your right foot. Keep squirting the throttle, and he pulls over early for his grid slot. Surprising, really. I thought he would wait a little bit longer than that to keep his tyres a bit cleaner. Michael Schumacher on the right of the grid. I'm surprised we haven't heard much about why pole is on the left-hand side. You see the rest of the field forming up now. Those McLarens are looking extremely fast again this morning, Murray.
As usual, when you see the lights, watch them. The reds will come on, and then they will come on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Look at Coulthard, 3 back on the left. He's put his car slightly not square into his slot in the hope of catapulting past Damon Hill. He's expecting a good start already.
Villeneuve on the right, Schumacher on the left, front row. Behind Schumacher is Damon Hill. 4, 5, pause. And it's go, 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 go. Villeneuve gets away and Schumacher gets away. Better, better, better. Michael Schumacher leads, and up alongside Villeneuve comes Heinz-Harald. Damon Hill is there too, but Coulthard has come through. Mika Hakkinen is up there. Fantastic start. Let's hope there are no collisions. It's absolutely perfect for Michael Schumacher, and terrible for Jacques Villeneuve. Remember that all that Michael Schumacher has got to do is stay ahead of Jacques Villeneuve. Doesn't matter how many points he scores, he will win the World Championship. Frentzen is second, Villeneuve is third. Villeneuve has dropped 2 places. Terrible for him.
Well, why on earth did Frentzen pulled over on his inside, apparently blocking the rest of the field, and Villeneuve appeared to let him through? This is exactly the reverse of what Williams needed. The 1, 2, 3 is in exactly the wrong order. Why did Villeneuve let Frentzen through, and why did Frentzen take the position to take second place? Very strange.
A terrible decision if it was a conscious decision. Villeneuve's starts have not always been good. He's done a lot of practicing, but he hasn't practiced enough. Frentzen is second. Villeneuve is in third position. Then the 2 McLarens. Damon Hill has dropped back into 6th position. Eddie Irvine has come up 2 places already, from 9th on the grid to 7th in the race. We're completing lap 1. The crowd rises, and Michael Schumacher leads across the line with 68 laps to go.
This is what we're always talking about, Michael Schumacher's athleticism. His brain is in gear before anybody else's, and once again you see the clear net result of that. He's up and running already, and he finishes the first lap with a 2-second lead and a 3.2-second lead over Villeneuve, the championship rival.
Did you hear that? A 2-second lead at the end of the first lap. This is really incredible. Michael Schumacher has been working away on his tyres. He hasn't used a new set of tyres except for the very first set he put on. All the others have been worn tyres, and he's been working on them very carefully to get the race set up absolutely right. And he's now on his second lap with clear track behind him, clear track in front of him. And the quickest man on the circuit actually at the moment is David Coulthard, who's gone through the first sector fastest of all. This is a 3-sector track. and we have the timing information to keep you in touch. As Michael Schumacher, with Frentzen not making any effect on the Ferrari ahead of him, goes into the Senna chicane and out of it. And that chicane was built after the awful accident to Martin Donnelly, who is here and looking very well indeed. Lap 2, Ferrari leads, Williams second, Williams third. Now let's see what's happening behind them. There are Frentzen, Villeneuve, Hakkinen is fourth, David Coulthard is in fifth position. There is the man who is second in the World Championship, and that is the championship leader.
Villeneuve matching Michael Schumacher's pace on the second lap there, so Villeneuve clearly does have the pace, but now he's 3.2 seconds still in arrears with his teammate in the way. Clearly his teammate will move out of the way when the moment arrives.
And already you have to say Michael Schumacher will be looking above all for a good pit stop and reliability.
Well, I just hope this championship is not decided by some silly reliability problem and that it's decided on the track. Here's the start. Again, Villeneuve initially moved well, but appeared to bog down. Maybe he just snatched second gear a bit too early. Michael had a reasonable start on the right-hand side of the grid and went screaming down into the first corner with a clearance. Here we see it again. Now look, they're getting away absolutely equally. Now watch Villeneuve bog down and Schumacher away. I think Villeneuve pulled for second gear maybe a bit too early. Schuey's looking in his left-hand mirror. Look, now his right-hand mirror. That's the sign of having plenty of capacity to be able to have a good look around you and see what's going on. Now look, this is the thing I was talking about. Why did Frentzen do this and why did Villeneuve let him do it? Now this is strange. This is wrong. What? Surely Frentzen had the rest of the pack behind him. That was Villeneuve's opportunity. He knew Frentzen would break and let him through. That was strange.
Now into lap 4 at Jerez, Spain. Frentzen is the fastest man on the track. He's just gone round faster than David Coulthard. 1 minute 24.571. That's 0.2 of a second faster than Michael Schumacher. I have to grasp for straws, Martin. It's not conceivable, surely, that Frentzen and Villeneuve have got some plan like Schumacher and Irvine had. If they had, I can't imagine what on earth it is.
Well, if Frentzen can get after Michael Schumacher and give him a hard time, but he took a couple of tenths off him on that lap. But at the moment, he's nowhere near fast enough to bother Michael Schumacher, and Villeneuve wants to be sure that Hakkinen and Coulthard don't cruise up behind him. But here's the start again.
I think Villeneuve was trying to do what he did in Japan, get away well and blast across the front.
Yes, he did, and in turning the car, he lit up the rear wheels, and he obviously just had to get out of the throttle a little bit. And now we see that strange, now it's out of camera shot, Schumacher well clear, and the two Williams squabbling over the corner.
Well, there we are. We're with the man, the double world champion, Michael Schumacher, in the Ferrari, coming up to complete his fourth lap. Turns into the hairpin, second gear, 55 miles an hour. Straight track in front of him, which climbs up to turn 1. Under the bridge, the gap was 2.1 seconds between himself and Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and it's now 2.14. So Michael Schumacher is easing gently away from both the Williams.
Yeah, but he's not pushing that car too hard. He's well within himself. He's not making any mistakes. The car's not snaking around. We can see all through the weekend so far, Michael Schumacher's been struggling with the back end of this car on used tyres, and he's very clearly looking after them, and he's been very, very easy with the throttle. You can hear it clearly. James Allen told us before the race starts that he put more wing on the back of this car to protect his rear tyres, more downforce to really look after those, and he's just squeezing that throttle as he comes out of the hairpins as if there was an egg underneath the pedal.
Martin, I remember many times in the past, Jacques Villeneuve has taken it quite carefully at the beginning of the race to get the heat into his tyres, and he's now definitely starting to close on Heinz-Harald Frentzen. The gap between the two of them is just over 1 second. It was more than that. Villeneuve is now the fastest man on the track. It was Coulthard, it was Frentzen, it's now Villeneuve. The race order on lap 5 out of 69 is Schumacher, Frentzen, Villeneuve, Hakkinen is 4th, Coulthard is 5th, Damon Hill is in 6th position ahead of Eddie Irvine, who's come up 2 places. Jan Magnussen in the Stewart is a magnificent 8th, ahead of Gerhard Berger 9th and Rubens Barrichello 10th.
Yes, I can't see the racetrack every time the leaders come past because the whole grandstand stands up. They're all wearing red hats and red T-shirts to see Michael Schumacher come past. But as you rightly say, there's still 64 laps to go, Murray.
Welcome back. Still no change. The Ferrari of Schumacher out in front. The two Williams are chasing. Villeneuve now really on the charge. So let's go straight back to Murray.
Through, because already he was in the slipstream and it's going to be hurting him, and more importantly, Murray, hurting his rear tyres. You slide around much more behind another car, which is why I was so amazed that Villeneuve ended up behind Frentzen in the first place.
No problem in the Constructors' Championship. Williams have already won it, a record 9th time.
Villeneuve getting very out of shape there on the apex of the last corner. Now he's obviously going to have a big push to close the 4 second gap. It is 4.3 second gap to Michael Schumacher in their synchronised swimming on that lap. They lost 9/10 of a second to Michael, so clearly it wasn't a seamless transition as Villeneuve went through into second place.
Not only that, but Michael Schumacher there has got the message. He has speeded up, fastest lap of the race, faster than Villeneuve, faster than Frentzen. Race order, lap 9 out of 69. Michael Schumacher leads Villeneuve by 4.3 seconds. 4.3 seconds. Frentzen third, Hakkinen fourth, Coulthard fifth. Hill is 6th, Irvine is 7th, Magnussen is 8th, Berger is 9th, and Barrichello is 10th.
Watching on the track, I think Villeneuve's car is faster than Michael Schumacher's car in a head-to-head. I mean, I really have to say, I think if Schumacher was in the Williams, you would give him this race automatically. And we'll see now whether Villeneuve's got his head together, because he should now be able to close up on Michael Schumacher at a couple of tenths per lap. Now he's got some clear air. And now the race has settled down into a pattern. He knows where the grip is on the track. He knows how the car is handling this afternoon, what effect the wind directions had, and now he can set about attacking. And I expect to see him in this lap or the next lap beginning to close the gap on Michael. He's got to.
4.3 seconds the gap. We've never seen a head-to-head, wheel-to-wheel battle between these two superstars. The double world champion and the man who would be. There is Villeneuve, second.
New lap record for Villeneuve on that lap, a 1:24.2. Fastest lap of the race so far. So, and that's old information you're now seeing. Villeneuve has already surpassed that with a slightly faster time. So Villeneuve on the attack, Michael Schumacher responding anyway.
Yeah, people say that Villeneuve is the man under pressure. They're both under pressure. Villeneuve is not new to winning championships. He won the Indy 500. He won the Indy Championship. And so he's used to pressure. He's a grizzled veteran, just like Michael Schumacher is there on lap 10. And Villeneuve has reduced the lead from 4.3 seconds to 4.2 seconds. He'll have to do better than that. Now, if we're right, as you watch this replay with Villeneuve lighting up the right front, if we're right about pit stops, they'll be coming in round about laps 23 and 46. 23 for the first stop. This is now lap 10.
Well, clearly the McLaren mechanics are not expecting to stop anytime soon. They look extremely relaxed, and they've done some superbly fast pit stops so far this year. We're on board with Villeneuve, looking over his right shoulder into Ducados, the last corner, go over the curve on the inside, and then it's very easy to run up onto the grass on the exit, and down, then they're going to diagonal the straight towards the end, the shortest route, and bury the car into the foot of the hill, down to second gear, again across those very smooth new curves, and again he took 0.2 of a second out of Michael Schumacher on that lap, still just over 4 seconds behind turn 3. Now let's see if he lifts the throttle. No chance, his car's working well, working very well so far through there. This is a tough corner, the fastest corner on the circuit, falls away on the exit, look for the curve on the left and get on the throttle. He can frustratingly see Schumacher down the road, but as I've said before, it's easier to chase than to lead.
And you'll notice that there's no hand off the wheel to change gears. Jacques Villeneuve is changing gears by flicking his fingers at two paddles which are underneath the steering wheel, the flat-topped steering wheel, and all the work is done for him. He doesn't use the clutch. There are hydraulic mechanisms which move the gears and flip the engine.
As you catch another car now, you'll see Michael Schumacher ahead of us. You always appear to home in on the guy when you go into a slow corner. You think, yes, I'm catching him, but of course he's on the throttle now and you're still negotiating that 50-mile-an-hour bend. Oh, a bit of a handful over the bumps there for Villeneuve, and then again you can see Schumacher's extended back out again. Let's see what this lap brings as they head into the pit straight, up to the grass, no further, otherwise you'll lose time, and drive for the line. It's a 24.5 for Schumacher and a 24.5 for Villeneuve. It's been so close, hasn't it? All year, all weekend, all race.
And look at this. this is Mika Hakkinen in the McLaren with David Coulthard behind him, and the two McLarens are right up now with Heinz-Harald who is dropping back. Now Mika Hakkinen was in terrific form during qualifying, and this morning he was fastest. His teammate David Coulthard was fourth fastest, and they're going to be pushing. They are pushing Heinz-Harald in the Williams very hard indeed for that third position. So Coulthard is fifth, Damon Hill is still in sixth position, and Damon Hill is catching Coulthard, who is right behind Hakkinen, and I therefore think that Heinz-Harald is holding them all up. He's causing a traffic jam.
Well, he's playing the rear gunner a little bit with the McLarens. We do know they're fast. We do know they're working very, very well with 80 kilos or so of fuel on board. Really, the rear gunner action should have been against Michael Schumacher, but at least if he can keep these two McLarens off of the gearbox of Jacques Villeneuve, he'll be helping him out quite a lot, so Villeneuve can concentrate solely on Michael Schumacher and build a gap so that after the pit stops, they're not going to end up mixing it with the McLarens. Frentzen can do a very, very important job here, as you rightly point out, Murray.
So out of the centre chicane into the 13th and last corner of the track. Look back and you see Damon Hill is the fourth of these cars. He's just out of shot at the moment, but Hill is actually catching David Coulthard's McLaren, and he's going to be right under the wing of the Mercedes-powered McLaren any moment now. Race leader, Michael Schumacher. The gap is 4.8 seconds. Schumacher is pulling away from Jacques Villeneuve, and off goes Pedro Diniz in the second arrows. He was in 13th place. Let's hope that he's not in a position of danger and that they will have to get the safety car out. That would be really, really bad luck for Michael Schumacher.
Villeneuve clearly made a mistake on the last lap. We haven't seen it on screen. He lost 7/10 of a second to Michael Schumacher. Schuey doing his normal 24.2. And Villeneuve did a 24.9. But interestingly, Frentzen is back in the 25.9s and early 26s. Clearly, he is slowing down so that these two are out front by themselves.
Lap 13 out of 69. Race order at Jerez. Michael Schumacher leads Villeneuve by 4.8 seconds. Villeneuve is now 7 seconds ahead of Frentzen, who has got Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard right behind him, with Damon Hill up with him in sixth position. Irvine is seventh, Magnussen is eighth, Berger is ninth, and Barrichello is 10th.
Michael must have lifted off for the yellows because he's back in the late 24s now. I've seen now that Deniz's car is off just after the Ayrton Senna chicane. He's clearly dropped it on the bumps and backed it into the hedge. I don't see them needing a safety car situation for that unless they somehow or other just can't move the car. It is sideways onto the racetrack, having said that, but it's on the inside. It's not really in the firing line.
Well, you can bet your bottom dollar that the race organisers and administrators are not going to do anything to mar the course of this race if they can possibly avoid it. If they do have to do something, it will be for very, very good reasons. So that's the gap between Schumacher and Villeneuve. Look back. Frentzen is dropping back all the time. 8 seconds now behind Jacques Villeneuve, with Hakkinen, Coulthard and Hill right up with him.
Very critical part of this race today, obviously, because
well, now Ruben, you're watching the battle between Rubens Barrichello in the Stewart Ford. Behind him is Olivier Panis, the Frenchman, who's now back in racing after breaking both his legs in the Canadian Grand Prix. And behind Olivier Panis is Jean Alesi, who is driving his last race for the Benetton team before he joins Sauber next year. So it's static at the present moment, but I'm sure there's a lot of anxious people in the Williams garage, and that is exactly where James Allen is.
Quite the reverse, Murray. A picture of calm down here. They weren't even surprised when Frentzen got ahead of Villeneuve at the start of this race. Frank Williams has got Louis Schweitzer, the president of Renault, standing just behind him. This is their last race together in this association. Of course, Williams will be using Mechachrome engines next year. I just saw Dickie Stanford, the team manager, up on the wall, give a signal to one of the mechanics with his fingers laid against his trousers so that no one at Ferrari would see what the signal was. I think it was when Villeneuve's going to come in, and it looked like 9 laps. That was a lap and a half ago.
Well, that would be about right. That will be lap 24, lap 25, and that would be absolutely bang on target for an evenly spread two-stop race, laps 23 and lap 46. There have been people who are saying that Ferrari and Williams will be watching each other very carefully indeed, and that as soon as one comes in, the other will come in. Do you think that?
I think they'll be playing a cat and mouse game very much like that. Ross Brawn is very good at thinking on his feet on the Ferrari pit wall there, and Villeneuve is really having to re-attack because Michael Schumacher putting in fastest lap last time round. Now it's Villeneuve's turn. The gap 5 seconds exactly. So there's nothing to choose between these two, and I can only assume at this stage that they're on the same race strategy, and I pretty much think that will also be a two-stop strategy. So Schumacher on his way now through 6 and 7 towards the second half of this race, and very much in the last 10 laps your neck is so painful and so finished through there's 4 very fast left-hand corners, which is unusual. There's the Jordan in the pits. That's very unusual too. They're on the harder tyres, and they're the first one to stop. The car's not working around this racetrack. They've had a dismal weekend at Jordan Peugeot, but Schumacher on his way, and he's really working very nicely to keep those rear tyres in good shape. Look, he doesn't let the car wander about at all. You can see him just squeezing the throttle pedal yet again, and the Ferrari fans in front of me jumping up yet again as Shui heads down to turn 1. Let's compare the lap times this time round, and Michael is 1/10 faster than Villeneuve on that lap. So James is down at the Ferrari garage to compare the atmosphere.
Well, I tell you, it's not so much about the atmosphere. The feeling down here in Ferrari is that Frenzen's got a problem with his rear tyres. That's what they've told the drivers, and that's what they believe down here.
So Michael Schumacher will be watching his. The man you saw come in the Jordan, incidentally, was Ralf Schumacher from 19th position. His teammate Giancarlo Fisichella is only 14th. This has been a dreadful place for the Jordan team. They qualified 16th and 17th, their worst qualifying of the year, and Fisichella is only in 14th place, and Ralf Schumacher will be running practically last now after that pit stop.
Well, remember in the middle of the season when Michael Schumacher won, I think it was Belgium, and Fisichella followed him up the steps, and we said this is the heir apparent. Fisichella's had 2 or 3 dismal performances now. Suzuka, he never got into that track. It's a real driver circuit there, and I thought it would suit him very well, but for some reason Fisichella in particular and Jordan in general have just faded away towards the end of the season.
Well, Ferrari had a trough in the Austrian and Luxembourg Grand Prix, 2 of the ones that badly affected their World Championship situation. They had car problems, they just didn't suit things, and it looked as though Williams had got the ascendancy back again. Well, it certainly doesn't look like that now. It's been a magnificent recovery by Ferrari. At Suzuka in Japan 2 weeks ago, when Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine drove that brilliant tactical race. There have been a lot of criticisms of them for not driving as individuals, including from Jacques Villeneuve, but it's a team sport, and Eddie Irvine magnificently supported Michael Schumacher. One of the things that helped the Ferrari was a dramatic new wing, which greatly... Oh!
Villeneuve well out of shape there on the way into the hairpin. That's going to cost him more time again. Lost the back of the car as he downshifted. You're braking hard. The weight transfer goes a long way forward. You lose rear aero, and then you have to start your downshift program. And finally the tyres say, no way. When then they lock the engine, basically. Haven't got enough grip to keep turning the engine, and the rear brakes almost stall the engine, and we saw Villeneuve really having to fight the back end of the car into the hairpin. Be interesting to see how much time he lost over that.
All we can see is Michael Schumacher now leading by 5.6 seconds, having increased his lead. Villeneuve in second position. At the end of the race, so very often we've heard drivers saying, I had this problem, I had that problem, when you can't tell from outside. Can you hypothesise what sort of a problem, if any, Villeneuve might have. Sometimes they come in and say, my first set of tyres was no good.
Well, it is surprising how the tyres do change. I mean, the tyre manufacturers don't like to hear it. They don't believe you. And they say, well, you know, we make them the same, we x-ray them, we test them, they're the same batch. But when you're pushing a car to the absolute limit, as Michael Schumacher is there, you are part of that car, you feel everything. And you just notice if they have a little bit more grip at the front or the back, and you come in and you say, yeah, that set of tyres is good. But more often than not, it's the tyre pressure. It's a very inexact science to get the tyre pressures absolutely right, because the track temperature varies and the pressure in the tyre varies, and over half the total suspension travel of the car is in the tyre itself. They run about 22 psi in the front, 18 psi in the rear, and change that by 1 psi more, and it's like changing the front springs by 10 or 20%. It's very critical, and that, I think, is what the drivers are mostly meaning when they say one set of tyres was better than the other. But this set is working well for Michael Schumacher.
Well, out goes Olivier Panis after his stop. Now, I do hope that the Spanish producer is not just going to stay with Michael Schumacher and Jacques Villeneuve for the whole race. There are 20 other drivers and cars in this event, and in particular, Eddie Irvine is at it again, because he's now still in 7th position, but he's only half a second behind Damon Hill, and it would be nice to see that. And I've just heard that Michael Schumacher is about to make his first stop.
Because he's got traffic in front of him, look. He has traffic. Let's wait and see in view. Yes, he's catching a back marker. He doesn't want to lose even the second that's going to cost him going round, who I believe is Marquez. I think it's Marquez. Yes, there we are. And it's going to cost Michael a second if Marquez is even half awake. So they're going to pit him, I suspect, maybe a lap early to give him some clear air when he goes back on the track. They will also have to look at what is the gap behind Michael. Will that put him into a gaggle of cars where he has to fight and lose even more time? I'm assuming he's something like 16 or 17 seconds ahead of those two McLarens. It's an early stop, and Williams are responding.
And right up with Tarso Marquez, I hope he's watching his rear mirrors, comes Michael Schumacher. Now's the time for him to come in. The gap between himself and Jacques Villeneuve on lap 22. It's going to be an earlier stop than we expected.
No, Marquez tried to let him through.
Here he comes, James Allen.
The Ferrari mechanics standing by, atmosphere of calm down here. They're going to put 57 kilos of fuel in, which is enough for a two-stop strategy. This Ferrari car engine, burns about 2.5 kilos of fuel per lap. Michael Schumacher in, they go to work. Well, you can see it for yourself, boys. Meanwhile, the Williams mechanics are ready. I can't see who they're waiting for, but we'll soon find out.
And out goes Michael Schumacher. Jacques Villeneuve has gone into the lead. Now let's see who is behind Michael Schumacher as he joins the race. And it's David Coulthard, who is in 5th position. So Michael Schumacher has rejoined in 4th place. Villeneuve leads, Frentzen is 2nd, Hakkinen is 3rd. They've all got to stop, of course, and they've got the traffic problem now, because look, there is Tarso Marquez, and Jacques Villeneuve is going to lose time unless he comes in, and there's Damon Hill coming out of the pits, so he's had his first tyre stop. Now Jacques Villeneuve must come in now, or he's going to lose time getting past Tarso Marquez.
In fairness to Marquez, he moved over to the left to let Schumacher through on the racing line, obviously completely unaware that Schumacher was going to pit. So Marquez cost Schumacher a lot of time going into the pit lane, nothing like enough to lose the lead. But here, Villeneuve's losing. Now, I wonder if he'll do the same thing again, if he'll move over to the left. No, Villeneuve's not quite close enough, and he goes in the pit lane this time. The tyre covers off, we know. James, are you there?
Absolutely waiting for Jacques Villeneuve as Jos Verstappen just goes flying past. 7.9 seconds the target for Jacques Villeneuve, but he's definitely lost a little bit of time on the in-lap. Well, the tyres were ready for him when Schumacher came in. He didn't obviously follow him into the pits, which is an interesting decision, and Martin, I'm sure, will be able to guess why he didn't do that. But
and Heinz-Harald leads the European Grand Prix at Jerez, and as you saw, the timing figures went all awry. I can't tell you what the time was. I can tell you that Michael Schumacher took 7.6 seconds, and I can tell you that Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in the lead. There is the proof, and behind Frentzen is Mika Hakkinen. These are the leaders. Frentzen leads in the Williams. Mika Hakkinen is second in the McLaren, and tight up behind them is the Ferrari of Michael Michael Schumacher. So Schumacher is benefiting from that pit stop. Behind Schumacher is David Coulthard. There is the McLaren Mercedes. Behind Coulthard is Villeneuve. And in sixth position in the second Ferrari is Eddie Irvine. Now, these are the two that had the confrontation in the pit lane after Eddie Irvine blocked Jacques Villeneuve on a quick lap in practice yesterday. So Eddie Irvine has told Jacques Villeneuve he's going to make his life as hard as he possibly can to help his teammate Michael Schumacher.
We understand that Villeneuve's pit stop was slightly faster than Michael Schumacher's, not enough to leapfrog ahead of him on the racetrack, but finally the McLarens are now having their say in the race. You can see Michael Schumacher behind Mika Hakkinen. I'd like to know how much fuel on board those McLarens. They've been so fast in the warm-up, in race trim. They haven't shown that kind of speed in the race so far, and you wonder really if they're going to a very long first stint or even a one-stopper. But here's Eddie Irvine in for his pit stop.
From 7th
Good
place.
practice for the Ferrari mechanics. The refueling rig comes up. That's a great stop.
7.1 seconds. I think that's the fastest we've had. Irvine came in from 7th position behind Gerhard Berger. And there's Damon Hill. Damon Hill trying to go through on the inside and take Eddie Irvine's 7th place away from him. Well, so there is Frentzen, and that is Michael Schumacher in 3rd position. Between them is Mika Hakkinen, and behind Michael Schumacher is David Coulthard. 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th all together on lap 25 out of 69. So we're rather more than 1/3 of the way through this vital European Grand Prix, which is going to decide the World Championship of 1997. And at the moment, it's not looking good for Jacques Villeneuve. But with those 45 laps still to go, anything can happen.
Now, this is bad news for Michael because it's costing him something like 1.5 seconds per lap. Frentzen is now really playing his part because he's in the mid-26s. When Michael came in, he was in the low 24s, even as much as 2 seconds per lap. And this is going to give Villeneuve a great opportunity to close that 5-second gap.
He's fastest.
Villeneuve goes fastest, 1:23.9, a new lap record for Villeneuve. And Coulthard is in the pits for his stop, 7.6 seconds, you can see. So that's going to move the McLarens out of the way of Michael Schumacher. And now if Williams have got a good strategy, they'll have put a lot of fuel in Frentzen's car, and he will be able to run, and do a really good spoiling job to bring Villeneuve back into contention. And there is Villeneuve.
Look how close they are.
No, that's Villeneuve behind
Yes, I know.
Schumacher.
Yeah, Villeneuve right up behind Michael Schumacher. And remember, the gap was over 5.3 seconds. In comes the Benetton. The Benetton of Jean Alesi from 12th position. At the present moment, Jacques Villeneuve is the fastest, the first man to go round in under 1 minute 24 seconds. 1 minute 23.972. We're with him now. That is his World Championship rival, Michael Schumacher, ahead of him. Ahead of Schumacher is Hakkinen. Ahead of Hakkinen is Frentzen. Frentzen is doing his job supremely well. His job is to slow things up and let Villeneuve catch Schumacher, which he has done. But Frentzen in the lead and Hakkinen in second place have still got to come in. And Michael Schumacher knows he's got a battle on his hands now as he comes up to complete his 26th lap out of 69.
There we see them through turn 1. Villeneuve close up behind Michael Schumacher, and he's doing a feint there up the inside. He wasn't trying to overtake, obviously, just really wants to distract Schuey. He's moving around in his mirror saying, look, here I am, let's go and play. And Frentzen up front, they're still slowing them down, now by 2.6 seconds per lap. And, well, this is the second race in succession where Michael Schumacher's had a face full of Williams trying to go slowly, and Villeneuve's in the slipstream, and he tries to have a go at the inside, but not close enough. Michael covers the inside line, and they're up and running, and obviously Hakkinen has now moved out of the equation, and really it's just, I wonder how much fuel they've got in that Williams and how long Frentzen can stay out there doing this slowing down job.
Yeah, I think we ought to apologise for the fact that the coverage is, to put it mildly, not what we would like it to be. You should have seen Jacques Villeneuve coming right up behind Schumacher then. You didn't. It's still too late. but we're doing the best we can to keep you in touch with what is a great race. Lap 27 out of 69, and the World Championship fight is well and truly on. That's the gap. It's a visual gap between Schumacher in second place, Villeneuve in third position, and of course Michael Schumacher is conscious of the fact that it's Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who is Villeneuve's teammate, in front of him, and he's got to be very cautious about how he passes it.
Right, Frentzen now 2 seconds faster, going to 24.7 for him. The team have obviously said, OK, you've done your job, Villeneuve's closed up, get on with it so you can stay in a good race position. That was the move we saw earlier of Villeneuve having a stab up the inside into turn 6, the hairpin, and now Williams have said to Frentzen, get on with it. We need you back in the race ahead of those McLarens so you can play this game again later on. And you can see Frentzen pulling away from Michael Schumacher. Why? Because he has much, much less fuel on board. 14 corners, 2 3/4 miles. This racetrack is all about corners, and the fuel load slows you down a great deal around here.
And Heinz-Harald Frentzen has still got to stop, of course. When he does so, Michael Schumacher will take the lead if Jacques Villeneuve has not passed him. He hasn't done so yet. This is the battle for second position. Behind them, it's Gerhard Berger as Villeneuve puts a wheel off the track.
Well, he loses a fraction there, but now the real penalty is in this chicane. He has dirty tyres. He has to fight the car. Now, I bet Michael Schumacher, if we could get rid of that box in the corner, has pulled away. Yes, he has. That's the problem there. You lose a little in the corner, you drive on the grass, but then you've got to clean those tyres up. Sometimes it can take half a lap or a lap. Sometimes they never clean up at all. Not a smart move there.
So, lap 29, and Frentzen is coming into the pits. Frentzen is in the pits. There he is. He's lost the lead. The two men who are battling for the World Championship as Frentzen rejoins. Where does he rejoin? Well, he rejoins behind the McLarens because it looks to me as though Berger has gone up into third position. Yes, he has. Coulthard has gone up into fourth place. Down to fifth position goes Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And the World Championship battle is on at the front between Schumacher, and he's coming up again to lap somebody, and it looks like Ukko Katayama. It is Ukko Katayama. And the Japanese driver is down in 21st place. We've only got one retirement so far. It's that of Pedro Diniz.
Well, this is going to be fun. They have to stay on the track and lap these guys unless the backmarkers are about to make a pit stop. Michael Schumacher, he's very good. He's very decisive behind backmarkers, but he's the first one along, which can be a big disadvantage because you wake the guys up and, oh, hey, the leaders are on top of me. And then that tends to clear the path for Villeneuve. But as happened to me once, if you're too far behind, too close to the guy in front, the car you're lapping moves out of the way and immediately moves back onto line and can take you off the racetrack. So you have to be wary if you're the second one through that they know they're letting two cars through. So it can be a problem either way.
So let's hope that Katayama, who's driving his last ever Grand Prix, he announced his retirement at the end of the season in Japan, will move over as into the pits comes Gerhard Berger from third position. Up goes David Coulthard to third place. Up goes Mika Hakkinen to fourth place. Up to fifth position goes Frentzen, and to sixth goes Irvine, to seventh goes Hill, and down to eighth position goes Gerhard Berger. That stop cost him 5 places. Now here it is, there's Katayama. Ahead of Katayama is Jos Verstappen, and Schumacher and Villeneuve are in amongst the traffic.
Katayama
well done, Ukko. Well done, Ukko. You are a Japanese gentleman. And he moves over and lets Schumacher and Villeneuve through. He's not going to interfere with the World Championship. Well done, lad.
Yes, good move there. I don't think they'll get the same kind of service from Verstappen if that's who they're homing in on.
Yes. But Jos the boss, they call him. Let's hope he's not going to try and show his mastery here. No, he does well. He almost stops.
Well, he did well, didn't he? I eat my words. He did very, very well to get out of the way there.
Katayama's right up with him now. Jos Verstappen is going to pay for that because Katayama got the momentum. They are battling well down the field, of course, Verstappen and Katayama for 20th position, but that's just as important to them, their battle, as this one is to Michael Schumacher and Jacques Villeneuve as they come up to Alto Norberto Fontana, who is the Argentinian driver, and he's between. Now, this is going to help Schumacher because Fontana has let Schumacher through, and he's balking, inadvertently, I hope, Jacques Villeneuve.
Well, that's always the problem that I mentioned. You let one through, and that's it. They pull back onto line and they almost have to reset the computer before they're ready to let the next one through. And look how much time that's cost Villeneuve. As Fontana moves out of the way, Villeneuve moves behind him in order to get the slipstream, and now he brakes on the clean side of the track and goes through. That's cost him dearly. Meanwhile, Frentzen sets a new fastest lap back there in 5th place. Now he's got the new tyres of a 1:23.1.
Case of champagne from Ferrari to Sauber for Norberto Fontana, because the Argentinian newcomer up from Formula 3 really helped Michael Schumacher on his way there.
What engine have they got in that Sauber, Murray? Isn't it a Ferrari?
Yeah, well, it is, yes. Well, Martin, you are a cynical chap. Lap 31, coming up to half distance. Michael Schumacher now. Let's see what the gap is. It was under 1 second, 0.8 of a second. Now he's been held up by Fontana. He crosses the line. Frentzen is now on a roll, fastest man of all, and the gap has gone up to over 3 seconds. So that's what Fontana cost Jacques Villeneuve, nearly 3 seconds.
Welcome back. The battle still continues. They're running as they were before we went to the break. Schumacher, Villeneuve, 1 and 2. Just a reminder before we go back to Murray Walker that at the end of this race, we have an exclusive piece for you, and that is the Williams Museum. Not seen in Australia before, in fact, rarely seen around the world. You'll see it tonight. AJ sits back in his championship car. Let's go back down to Murray Walker and Martin Brundle.
He's not really been able to do much better than mid-24s. He seems to have struggled since he left the pitch, whereas Villeneuve can now attack him on the low 24s. Meanwhile, David Coulthard, clearly the winner in the pit stop frenzy behind, coming out ahead of Mika Hakkinen and taking currently 3rd place. Hakkinen and Frentzen breathing down his neck. We're on board with the Villeneuve.
And the gap, which was 2.8 seconds, is 2.3 seconds. Jacques Villeneuve is catching Michael Schumacher at the rate of half a second a lap. We're on lap 35 out of 69, so just on half a distance. And a titanic scrap for the World Championship is taking place at the front, with Michael Schumacher 1 point ahead of Jacques Villeneuve. If he can just stay ahead of the Canadian, and it doesn't matter what places they are in, he will win the World Championship.
This is all about mental and physical fitness. I've already told you how hard it is on your neck. The 4 fast left-handers, unusually on a clockwise circuit. There goes Michael Schumacher through the first of them, now the second one. And they're both in very good shape, mentally and physically. I don't know, you'd perhaps have to just give the balance to Michael Schumacher on that.
I reckon so. And meantime, David Coulthard is making no impression on the Ferrari and the Williams ahead of him. He's keeping ahead of his teammate Mika Hakkinen, and they're going to have to be very careful not to drive into each other. The biggest sin of all in Formula 1 or any kind of motor racing is to drive into your teammate. That is Mika Salo from 16th position, his last drive for Tyrrell before he replaces Damon Hill in the Arrows team next year. And you can see visually now, with 35 laps out of the 69 still to go, that Villeneuve is catching Schumacher because he's done it again. Down comes the gap to 2.1 seconds.
Michael, I think, smoked his right front tyre again going into turn 2. Louise has news from Ferrari.
Yeah, just a little scene down in the Ferrari garage a moment ago. Michael Schumacher's telemetry engineer just rushed out from the back of the garage up to a TV crew out on the pit wall. Obviously, their radio camera is affecting the waves for his telemetry. They don't want to get anything to get in their way today.
I bet they don't, and they won't be very popular by the way they've gone.
Let me just explain that, because every time Michael's car comes past the pits, there's a data burst of all of the information, every parameter you can think of, temperatures, pressures, revs, throttle, steering, bursts back to the pits, and the Ferrari guys want to know exactly what's going on. Not that they can do too much about it other than give Michael some information and signals, but they want to know what's going on and they know every detail. Every time Schumacher presses the throttle pedal, somebody back in the Ferrari pit knows by exactly how much.
Because Formula One is not just about drivers, it's not just about cars, engines, gearboxes and tyres. It's about the technicians and the mechanics and the designers and the people at the factory. And you have to put it all together to get the best possible team. One without the other will not get the job done.
The tension is incredible. We're just over halfway through the race, and here we have the two protagonists head-to-head. It's fantastic. You couldn't have written a better script, Murray.
You could not. The gap has come down to under 2 seconds. Fastest lap, that of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and here at last is that battle for third position. David Coulthard in the McLaren, Mika Hakkinen in the McLaren, Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Williams, and behind them is Eddie Irvine, not catching them at the present moment. So those are the top 6. Damon Hill is still 7th ahead of Berger, Magnussen and Panis for the top 10.
Yes, and Berger is pressing Damon Hill very hard too. He's just 0.3 of a second behind him and some 1 second a lap faster at the moment. Damon Hill not having a great afternoon. Clearly, he didn't get the balance of his car sorted out after the warm-up, because he could have and should have been a contender somewhere at the front of this race, given the pace that he's had.
Well, there's a battle for third position in the Constructors' Championship between Benetton and McLaren. And the McLarens are building points at the present moment, because they're on 7 points for third and fourth places, but that would not be nearly enough to move Benetton out of that third position, which I think is virtually impregnable. But Michael Schumacher's lead most certainly is not, because down to 1.5 seconds comes the gap. There is little Jacques Villeneuve, the man from Ontario, from Quebec in Canada. This is his 33rd Grand Prix, and if he wins this one, it'll give him the World Championship in only his 2nd year of Formula One.
Jacques is on the boil. He's driving beautifully. He's on the limit. You saw him just having to bleed a bit of brake pedal pressure out into 2, just smoking the inside front right, no problem at all. But he's really attacking the racetrack. He looks very, very composed. He looks completely in the rhythm now, unlike those first few laps of the race where he dropped back so far. Luckily, Frentzen was able to artificially close that gap for him back to Schumacher's gearbox, and now he's applying some pressure, and Michael Schumacher can't respond. He's losing 4 or 5 tenths of a second per lap, and they're coming up to Fisichella to lap him.
Yeah, and I reckon, Martin, it's the second tyre stop that could decide this race, because Villeneuve is going to be with Schumacher very, very shortly. They're on lap 38 now. I'm expecting them to come in round about lap 46, so another 8 or 9 laps to go, and lots of traffic, because in front of Fisichella, you can see there's 2 other cars, Shinji Nakano, the Japanese driver in the Prost, and Ralf Schumacher. Yeah, now, will Ralf help his brother to get through and stop Villeneuve?
OK, that's Jean Todt. I bet you he's just been down to the Jordan pit to say, hey, my boy's coming along, what are you going to tell your drivers? I'm sure that's where he's just coming from, because I'm sure Ralf won't be a problem, but Fisichella needs to get out of Michael's way very quickly. This is a worst-case scenario. 3 cars having their own private battle. They're much, much harder to pass than normal. Todt back on his perch.
Fisichella is going to be the first one, Nakano the second, Ralf Schumacher the third. I wonder if Ralf Schumacher's aware of the situation. So Fisichella there has been passed by Michael Schumacher. He's now in the way of Jacques Villeneuve, and Schumacher is bearing down on Shinji Nakano, probably driving his last race for the Prost team. And we're with Villeneuve now. That's Fisichella. Fisichella moves over and lets Villeneuve through. 2nd place.
That's Fisichella's Ferrari drive gone for Burton, Murray.
Absolutely. So the other drivers are driving extremely responsibly, because you see now Nakano has moved over and let Schumacher through as the German double world champion goes through into his 40th 4-0 lap, and Villeneuve bears down on Shinji Nakano, 2nd place man about to lap 14th place man. Now Ralf Schumacher is the man to watch in the yellow Jordan. He will see. Now let's hope for Michael's sake that Ralf Schumacher doesn't do anything daft like has happened at the start earlier on in another race.
In Germany, it was for the European
That's right,
for the
he drove
Luxembourg
into
Grand
his
Prix
brother at the Luxembourg Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. Now, Ralf Schumacher will be aware of the fact that it's his brother Michael bearing down on him, and if he doesn't move out of the way like a dose of salts, he will be in real trouble. But is he going to do the same thing for Jacques Villeneuve? We're with Villeneuve now, replay.
Villeneuve going underneath at turn 6, underneath Nakano for a nice clean pass. Sorry, that was turn 2 for a nice clean pass. So they're still running line astern, and Ralf hasn't exactly evaporated yet.
Well, now we'll watch. It's Prix. There now. So Michael's through. Now, what's Ralf going to do? Is he going to play the white man, or is he going to make things difficult for Villeneuve?
Well, Ralf looks to have a few problems of his own at the moment with fluid coming out of the back of the car. Ralph's struggling for some reason, but he's immediately let Villeneuve through. And I think Michael would be pleased about that. He wouldn't, if he wins this World Championship, he doesn't want everybody saying, yeah, because of your brother. But Ralph's got his own brand of problems.
Puff of smoke coming from the engine of Ralf Schumacher's Jordan. The Peugeot engine. It's Jordan's last race with the Peugeot engine. There's smoke or tyre smoke.
That's Michael locking his right front again. Hopefully we'll see a replay of Michael going into 2 and turn 2, locking his right front. No harm done as long as you keep just releasing that pedal, cadence braking, so you don't create a flat spot on the tyre. But Michael's right front tyre does not look happy. Looks particularly unhappy, but through the traffic, Schumacher's made a couple of tenths.
1.7 seconds is the lead. What a cliffhanger. What a fabulous race for the World Championship at the front. Long time since we've seen anything as exciting as this. Remember Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill, last race of the year at Adelaide in Australia. They had that coming together. And that's a replay looking from Villeneuve's car of Michael Schumacher locking up his tyre.
Yes, so I think Michael will be very, very pleased to get rid of this set of tyres. Remember, his car's been hard on tyres. He had a lovely clear run in the first stint. After the first pit stop, he came out in amongst the McLarens, and in the dirty air behind the cars, your car slides around, and if it damages the tyre, you get graining on the top. You can't recover those tyres. They seem to slide around more and more and more, and I bet he's looking forward to lap 45 or lap 46, so he can get rid of them and get a fresh set on, hopefully into clear air, so he can look after them as he was in the early stages of the race.
Me too, and he's on lap 42 at the moment, so he's got another, if we're right, 3 or 4 laps to go, but he's pulling away from Villeneuve. The gap's gone up from 1.7 to 2.2 seconds. It's still Coulthard third, 19 seconds behind Schumacher. Hakkinen is 4th, Frentzen is 5th, Irvine is 6th, Berger is 7th, Hill is 8th, Magnussen is 9th, and Olivier Panis is in 10th place.
Welcome back. This happened just a few seconds ago. Michael Schumacher into the pits. AJ, this could win or lose this race.
It certainly could, and you know, there's no doubt about it. It's Villeneuve is still out on the track. He's taken over the lead. Schumacher now pulls up, but Villeneuve really has to go like hell in this one lap to try and get that deficit back.
And while we're back live, here's Villeneuve coming into the pits now. So we've had the Ferrari out in front of the McLarens. He got out in front of the 2 McLarens. Now here's Jacques Villeneuve. He's straight into the pits. We're back live now. Back to Murray.
Critical thing is Irvine going to spoil Villeneuve's day today? 9.4 seconds was the target to beat. Up to you.
And he's done it, 8.3 seconds. So Villeneuve has gained 1 second, and look, the McLaren goes past him. So Villeneuve has lost a place there. No, this is indeed the pit stop that could decide the World Championship.
I want to see if Villeneuve went back up the inside there of Coulthard. No, he didn't. That's very, very bad news for Villeneuve. He's going to lose time now. Schumacher got just ahead of those McLarens. Villeneuve appeared to be steady into turn 1, and Coulthard nailed him on the brakes, and there's the net result of that.
And Villeneuve and Coulthard are great friends. They live in Monaco, go out a lot together, but it's all fair in love and war on the racetrack. And Villeneuve is suffering now because he's being held up, and David Coulthard has yet to make his second stop, which both Villeneuve and Michael Schumacher have done. And there is the battle, and behind the first Williams Renault is the second one, as towards us comes Michael Schumacher. Behind him is Salo, who is well back in the race in the Tyrrell. There is the McLaren of David Coulthard ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, who is trying to get through, and in comes David Coulthard.
That could be critical. Hakkinen's already been in the pits. That's going to help Villeneuve a lot. He only had to follow for one lap with his fresh tyres, so no particular damage done there. Coulthard makes his way down the pit lane at 80 kilometres per hour, just 50 miles an hour is the limit because it's such a small, narrow pit lane. As Coulthard goes in, you can see the time on your screen, 7.1, a great stop. I wonder if that'll get him back out in third place ahead of Hakkinen and Frentzen. As we see now, once again, the two championship leaders are line astern. There's Villeneuve in second place, Schumacher 2.5 seconds further along the track. There he is now.
So both Michael Schumacher and Jacques Villeneuve, who are now back in first and second places, have made their second and last stops. And Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in third place ahead of Gerhard Berger. Frentzen just behind Villeneuve, and of course he will stay there. He's not going to do anything to take points away from Jacques Villeneuve. So Villeneuve knows that his rear is being protected by Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who will stop any argy-barging from Gerhard Berger, who will be anxious to get the best possible points he can in his last Grand Prix, because the great Austrian with over 200 Grand Prix to his name has announced his retirement. So Schumacher leads, lap 46. Villeneuve is second, Frentzen is third, Berger is in fourth place, David Coulthard is fifth, Mika Hakkinen is sixth, Eddie Irvine is seventh in the second Ferrari ahead of Damon Hill, ninth is Johnny Herbert, 10th is Jan Magnussen, and the gap between Michael Schumacher and Jacques Villeneuve is down to just over 1 second.
Strange lap there from Michael Schumacher, 1:25.6, very, very slow, lost 1.6 seconds to Villeneuve.
Well, if Villeneuve can get past Michael Schumacher, you can bet your bottom dollar that he's going to take a bit of shifting, because he will be on target for the World Championship. And he's on lap 47 now in a 62-lap race.
That's the Benetton bouncing across. I didn't see which one, probably. I thought I saw a Lacey's helmet bouncing across the gravel trap there into retirement. I would think now he's managed to keep it going. Yes, it is a Lacey rejoining. He's not really a feature in this race. Back there in 11th place, somewhat further behind than that now, I would imagine. Why was Michael Schumacher so slow on the last lap? I haven't seen any sign of him making a mistake. I wonder if he's got some kind of problem.
Well, time will tell, and it looks as though he has, because look, Jacques Villeneuve, lap 47, is right up behind the Ferrari, bidding to take the lead in the race and the World Championship. Because if he finishes just 1 point ahead of Michael Schumacher, they would tie for points, but Jacques Villeneuve would win the championship because he has won 7 races and Michael Schumacher has won 5. 47 laps completed.
Blue smoke there, they're coming into a load of blue smoke. Somebody's locked up as well.
Frentzen right up there. Frentzen is forcing. Look how close it is. First, second and third absolutely together. Jacques Villeneuve looking for a way past the Ferrari as up to, I think it's one of the Jordans, comes Michael Schumacher. He's going to be on it very shortly.
Well, again, Michael Schumacher very slow, 1:25.9 on that last lap. I wonder if he's got something like a slow puncture or some kind of gear shift problem, because Villeneuve is all over him. Look, he's going through. Oh, yes. I don't think.
Out goes Michael Schumacher.
That didn't work. That didn't work, Michael. You hit the wrong part of him, my friend. I don't think that will cause Villeneuve a problem.
Michael Schumacher out. Now, this is a replay of the World Championship in 1994, when Schumacher and Hill had a coming together. And if Villeneuve can just keep going in the points, he's won the World Championship of 1997, because out of the race goes Michael Schumacher. He retires on lap 48. Well, this is what we feared would happen, that there would be a collision, a racing accident, and Jacques Villeneuve now has a clear track in front of him as off goes Michael Schumacher.
Well, I don't think there's Villeneuve going on his way. I don't think Michael's going to be seeing the Williams stuck in the pits, as he did with Damon Hill those years ago, I think he's going to see that Williams carrying on, driving past him, because his front wheel hit the side pod of Villeneuve's car. It didn't touch the suspension. Villeneuve appears to be on his way. I thought it was a very conscious effort there to turn in, knowing Villeneuve was coming along the inside. Obviously Schumacher had some kind of problem, and well, I don't want to say too much, but it was a clear attempt to turn in with Villeneuve's car in the way, and it didn't do the job. I think the front wheel hit his side pod. If he has made any damage, it's going to show up in the next 2 or 3 laps.
Well, I had a good look at the suspension, and it looked perfectly okay to me.
There's Michael looking down the track to see if Villeneuve is coming around. Remember, Michael looking through the fence of Adelaide to see if if Damon was coming round. Well, I think he's going to see Villeneuve coming round and round and round.
The test is going to be what happens behind Jacques Villeneuve now. David Coulthard is 15 seconds behind him. So an unhappy Michael Schumacher walking in. He said if he didn't win the race or the world, out goes Damon Hill from 8th position. His last race for Arrows. His first race for Arrows in Australia was a failure. Well, he didn't even start the race. That's Schumacher being taken back to the pits. Now, the test now is going to be whether David Coulthard can reduce the lead that Villeneuve has got, which was 15 seconds. If he's doing it dramatically, we'll know that Villeneuve has got a problem.
He's 29.4 on that lap. Villeneuve's got it. Look, now watch the contact. There's Shuey going in. Look, he did hit, his rear wheel did hit Villeneuve's rear wheel. Villeneuve may have a slow puncture. He may have some suspension damage. He's 5 seconds off the pace at the moment. This championship is still not decided. Now watch. He takes a dive up the inside. He put himself in a position we talked about not to give Michael a chance. Michael realises, look, Villeneuve's on the track. Michael hits him. We can't see the contact there from that camera angle, obviously, but it depends on whether he made contact with those rear wishbones. They are not very strong. Now we're going to see it. Now we're going to see from Michael Schumacher's car. Villeneuve, watch him slice up the inside. Now watch his hands. Does Shuey turn in? Well, he's turning into the corner, but his rear wheel may have just done enough damage to knock Villeneuve's car out of the race. Villeneuve lapping 5 seconds a lap slow. There's the beached Ferrari of Michael Schumacher.
What did I say? David Coulthard has got the gap between himself and Villeneuve down to under 12 seconds now. He's taken an enormous chunk out of Villeneuve's lead, but Villeneuve is on his 50th lap now. He's got 19 laps to go. And if he can just keep going in the top 6, he's going to be all right. If he drops below 6 in this quite incredible race, he's going to fail to win the World Championship, and Michael Schumacher will win it. And here is a replay of Damon Hill touring in. Visor up. Lap 50, Villeneuve leads, and down comes the gap to 10 seconds. Coulthard is second, Hakkinen is third, and the gap is being reduced by David Coulthard at the rate of 1.5 seconds a lap. But at the moment, Villeneuve looks safe, because between him and Frentzen, who is in 6th place, there are 23 seconds, and he can afford to lose a lot of time and still get a World Championship point.
Well, he's picking up the pace again now, 2 seconds faster on that. The barge board is damaged, the deflector on the side of the car. That is not a critical part of the car. It won't help the handling. You saw Villeneuve, they're snaking out of turn 6. Maybe the track of the rear of the car has been knocked around a bit. The track rod's reasonably strong. The wishbones are not strong at all. There's Patrick Head and Frank trying to get a good view of the side of the car to see if there's any damage. Villeneuve now just 1.4 seconds off of Coulthard's pace in 2nd place. And, well, I wonder...
And Louis Schweitzer, the boss of Renault, it's their last Grand Prix after 7 wonderful World Championship years, in which they've dominated everything, and naturally they want one of their cars to come home in 1st place. Well, at the present moment it can only be Jacques Villeneuve, because down in 6th position in the 2nd Williams Renault is Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
He's okay, he's picking up the pace. He was obviously just checking the car out as he was going around. He had a couple of very slow laps, but now Villeneuve is getting back on the pace, and this is amazing, Murray. Suddenly all these people in the grandstand in front of me are jumping up as Villeneuve goes past, but Louise is in the pits.
There's some scenes a moment ago. I don't think you saw it on the cameras, but as Villeneuve came down the pit lane, he came incredibly close to the McLaren refuelling area. In fact, so close he caught the air guns took them with him down the pit lane and sent them barrelling into the Benetton mechanics who were standing out at the front of their garage waiting for their pit stop. They all had to go rushing back into the garage. Thankfully, nobody's been hurt, though.
Lap 52, we're riding with Jacques Villeneuve, but David Coulthard continues to bear down on the Williams-Renault. The gap now is 9 seconds. Jacques Villeneuve may have increased the pace, but he's not increased it enough. Coulthard could win this race, but Villeneuve looks very likely to win the World Championship. Lap 52, so there are 17 laps of 2.75 miles to go between Villeneuve and the championship, with his sole rival, Michael Schumacher, out of the race on lap 48 after that collision.
I'll stick my neck out, Murray, but I think if Villeneuve's car was going to fall apart, it would have happened before now. He's lapping quickly enough to put a lot of load into that suspension, and it's staying with him. 4 wheels on his wagon still.
I think you're absolutely right. It's worth saying that those suspension arms are made out of carbon fibre, which are tremendously strong in the direction in which they're supposed to take loads and stress, but not strong in the other directions. But it looks as though the fact that it was a clean side swipe has enabled Villeneuve to check the suspension and find out that it's perfectly all right. Lap 53.
Yes, and Villeneuve now on the same pace as David Coulthard. James is in the Williams pit.
And like you, Martin, I'm trying to assess whether there's any damage to Villeneuve's car. James Robinson, the chief engineer, came down off the wall. Patrick Head, you saw them in a conflab earlier. Now, the lap after the incident happened, Villeneuve's tyres were out in the pit lane. They thought there was a problem. Villeneuve radioed to get a set of tyres ready. They waited for a little while, but then they brought them back in again. And it seems as though there is not a problem with Jacques Villeneuve's car. It seems as though he's okay. There's no one really concerned over at the telemetry area. The engine's working fine, so we'll see.
Well, he's certainly got a problem from the point of view of winning the race. I don't think he's got a problem from the point of view of winning the championship, because David Coulthard continues marginally to eat into his lead. It's under 9 seconds now. Coulthard second, Hakkinen third, looking good for McLaren, second and third. Irvine is fourth in the second Ferrari, the only one that's left, as Michael Schumacher walks into the garage. His race and World Championship year is over. Jacques Villeneuve is on his way, leading by 9 seconds on lap 54.
Welcome back. We're back live. Our exclusive coverage of this, the championship decided. Villeneuve still out in front. Coulthard doing everything he can to close the gap, but at the moment, not really having that much luck. Now, Alan Jones, I'm going to put it straight on you, that incident with Schumacher and Villeneuve. I mean, in my eyes, I say that's a deliberate piece of driving. There's the pit. But I guess Australia wants to know what you think. Here's the replay from onboard Schumacher's car.
Well, I agree with you, Daz. There's no doubt in my mind, and this is my opinion, that Schumacher deliberately drove into the side of him to have him off, a la Damon Hill, Adelaide, several years ago. And it's a shame. He's the best driver in Formula One, there's no doubt about that. What he's done with that Ferrari is just nothing short of miracles. But to do that, I think, well, you know, it's just gone down in my estimation a lot for that.
Yeah, well, no one's a bigger Ferrari fan than I, and I mean, you've always been a Williams man, obviously winning their first championship. That's not the way the World Championship should have been decided. 350 million people around the world disappointed because of that sort of act. Obviously, he's had a problem, but by gee, his credibility falls away a bit.
Well, it's also unnecessarily dangerous. I mean, you know, Villeneuve could have driven over the top of him or whatever. Fair enough to defend your line going into a corner. But if you look at that replay time and time again, you will see that his right hand literally comes down a lot more than what need be just to defend your line.
Well, of course, we'll be covering the press conference at the end of this. Don't forget the tour of the Williams factory. That's something that nobody in this country's ever seen. Let's go back to Murray.
For me, we see it again. Watch him turn in. The front wheel hits the side pod, the rear wheel hits his rear wheel, but face on, and they're strong enough in that direction. And Villeneuve goes on his merry way, and Louise is in the Ferrari pits.
Yeah, I've been checking up what's been going on down at Ferrari. Michael Schumacher's just arrived back in the paddock on the back of a motorbike. He walked into the pits to speak with his team, but he certainly wasn't speaking to anybody else. He came out of the garage, went into the motorhome, and I don't think we're going to see him again for quite some time. In fact, Ralph has just picked his way through the crowd. No doubt he's gone in to console his brother. I was actually in the Ferrari garage when Michael's car went out. It was just a feeling of utter disbelief in there. They could not believe what they were seeing. They were shaking their heads, they were wringing their hands, just staring at the TV screens in utter disbelief, even a few tears.
That 57 completed now for Jacques Villeneuve, so he's got 12 laps to go, and he's picked up the pace because he's only half a second or so slower than David Coulthard at the present moment. And as Martin has pointed out, and as Eddie Irvine is closing on the McLarens in front of him, Irvine in fourth position, but as Martin pointed out, Coulthard and Hakkinen are not making any real impression on Giancarlo Fisichella, who's been lapped by the leader and is down in 11th place. So it's looking very, very good for Jacques Villeneuve to win the race and the World Championship in only his second year of Formula One. And down in the pit lane, news from James Allen in the Williams area.
Yes, I'm just looking at the telemetry. Villeneuve's car took a knock on the water radiator. They're keeping an eye on the temperatures at the moment. Everything is okay. But in the meantime, obviously, Villeneuve is just taking it nice and easy, just nursing the car. Patrick Head has just walked down and into the McLaren garage, obviously to have a word with them down there. Interestingly, Mansour OJ, during the course of this race, who is Ron Dennis's partner, and Ron Dennis himself, have both been up to see Frank. This is before all the drama happened during the course of the race. Whether it was to do with what was going to happen on the track, the influence of Coulthard and Hakkinen on the outcome for them, I don't know. But nowadays, right now, Patrick's gone into their garage, obviously, to talk to them about how they deal with this race.
Yes, and interestingly, I saw Jacques Villeneuve coming out of the McLaren motorhome also on Saturday. I think Villeneuve was slowing everybody down in Japan in the hope that somebody would overtake Michael Schumacher, and McLaren was saying to him, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you let us in on your secret if you wanted us to be overtaking Michael Schumacher? So we told our man to be careful not to get involved in the leading accident. So quite clearly, I would suspect that Patrick has been and said to Ron Dennis and go, look, you know, if your guys come up, then Jacques is not going to give them a problem.
Well, he's got 10 laps to go, including the one he's on, and David Coulthard and Hakkinen continue to catch him. And that's Shinji Nakano, the Japanese driver, that Villeneuve has just lapped it. Nakano is in 10th place, and the gap between Villeneuve and Coulthard is 5 seconds, and Coulthard is lapping about half a second faster than Jacques Villeneuve, so it's not enough, I think, to take the lead away from Villeneuve in the closing stages of the race, because Jacques Villeneuve will have a very wide car if he doesn't decide to yield. And he's on lap 59 now. The Williams are looking good, and you look back in the Senna chicane and you see the two McLarens going together almost as one. Eddie Irvine is 4 seconds behind them in 4th place. Gerhard Berger is still 5th in the points in his last Grand Prix. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is behind, very close to Gerhard Berger. It would be nice to have a look at him because Berger's giving him a hard time.
Look at the way Nakano's staying with Villeneuve. Slow lap there from Villeneuve, 26.5. McLaren's taking another 0.4 of a second. The gap now down to 4.7. I tend to disagree with you. I think those McLarens are going to be snapping at his gearbox in the very near future. There's 10 laps to go, time enough for them to be giving him a hard time. And if they show him a wheel, he'll be jumping out of the way because he's seen enough wheels in his side pod for one day.
Yeah, I've just had an agonising reappraisal of the whole situation, Martin, and I think you're right. That is what is very likely to happen. And we're on lap 60 now, but still Giancarlo Fisichella, he's just lapped in 125.8 in comparison with David Coulthard's 126.1. So Fisichella is holding his end up, but he's down in 11th position. Top 10, Villeneuve on lap 60. 4.7 seconds ahead of David Coulthard and holding firm. Hakkinen 3rd, Irvine 4th, Berger 5th, Frentzen 6th, Panis 7th, Herbert 8th, Magnussen 9th, Nakano 10th, and against expectations, Goodyear very much winning the tar battle between themselves and the Bridgestone concern as we ride over the line up to turn 1 with Jacques Villeneuve into his 61st lap.
Well, he's responded again now. Villeneuve back into the 25s. Coulthard just a smidge quicker on that lap. Villeneuve is still responding, so clearly they don't have too many worries about their water temperatures, otherwise he'd continue to back off.
Yeah, 4.6 seconds he can afford to lose time, a small amount of time on each lap, because he's only got 9 of those 2.75 mile laps between himself and the World Championship that every Formula One driver aspires to.
Yes, Fisichella back in 11th place is controlling this race at the moment. It's a shame. Yes, Patrick Head walking back into the garage, the Williams technical director, walking back into the garage there. I don't know, no idea what he would have been saying on the pit wall, but it's a pity that the two McLarens are tucked up behind that Jordan, because I'd like to see them really coming through and making a good finale to this great race and a great racing season.
Well, remember that with Jacques Villeneuve potentially on 87 points in the World Championship, if he gets 10 for winning this race in comparison with Michael Schumacher's 78, he's got to finish in the top 6 to win the World Championship. If anything did happen to his car and took him out of the race, which would be no justice because he's now on his 62nd lap out of 69, it would lose the championship for him, and Villeneuve and Schumacher would win it by 1 point. But Villeneuve certainly looking strong, his car's looking good, and he is still 5 seconds ahead of David Coulthard, who is making no impression now on the flying Williams Renault.
Yes, I have to say that Fisichella's doing nothing wrong, because the McLarens are not really pushing them hard enough. He's not holding them up. He won't be seeing blue flags. There you can see the gap in the background, and the McLarens, I don't know, understand why they can't just move up and get on with it, and where Fisichella's got this pace from. But Fisichella's doing absolutely nothing wrong until the blue flags are waving. James.
Yes, Murray, you'll love this. A couple of the Williams mechanics just grabbed me and said to me, listen, Murray hasn't put the curse on us yet, has he? He hasn't said this now, Villeneuve is now the world champion, he's now the race winner, has he? I said, no, calm your boots, lads. He hasn't said anything of the sort, and I'm sure he isn't going to until the checkered flag.
No, indeed he is not. But he's watching Eddie Irvine, who is flying in the Ferrari in 4th position, trying to get onto the podium for his last race for Ferrari in 1997. He's 4.6 seconds behind Mika Hakkinen, but he's catching very slowly the McLaren Mercedes ahead of him. Well, our Spanish producer seems to have decided to stay with Jacques Villeneuve for the rest of the race, in which case, as he's on lap 63, we're going to be with him for another 6 laps. Villeneuve has steadied the gap. Coulthard has still not caught, never mind, got past Fisichella, who is in 11th position. David Coulthard is 2nd, so he's almost a full lap ahead of the Jordan. A very poor race for the Jordan team, because Fisichella is down in that 11th position and Ralf Schumacher is out of the race. Indeed, the retirements thus far are Michael Schumacher, Damon Hill, Ralf Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello and Pedro Diniz. So only 5 retirements out of the 22 starters. We're on lap 63 with 6 laps to go. And it looking, as I've said, very good indeed for Villeneuve.
Okay, the pressure's off Villeneuve. It appears to me that Coulthard and Hakkinen, who have both driven great races, but it appears to me that they've given up the chase. They lost a half a second to Villeneuve that time. Nothing wrong with his car. He just lapped in only 1.2 seconds slower than his fastest lap of the race. And it appears to me the two McLarens are backing off to settle for 2nd and 3rd as Villeneuve goes into the 63rd lap of the 69.
And watching him somewhat wryly will be Adrian Newey, now wearing his McLaren uniform. The man who left the Williams team and joined McLaren, and the man who, with Patrick Head, built Williams into the position of dominance with the Renault power that they have had for years. They've won 9 Constructors' Championships. I say we'll be watching Riley because a lot of people said that when Adrian Newey went from Williams to McLaren, Williams would lose a lot of their strength. Well, Williams have always built in depth. It's always been Frank Williams and Patrick Head's policy to get good people all the way down the line. And they've got an enormously strong, powerful organisation at Grove. With those 9 Constructors' Championships under their belt, it looks as though they're about to have another Drivers' Championship and a new man, Jacques Villeneuve.
Well, Berger's driven a good race. There's Berger. In fact, that's 4th, 5th and 6th, very close together. Irvine, Berger, Frentzen. Gerhard's driven really a superb, for what is his last Grand Prix, probably, Murray.
Yeah, absolutely. Gerhard Berger has announced his retirement. He's had a lot of sinus problems this year, but he's going out on a pretty high note, having won the German Grand Prix for Benetton this year. He's the oldest driver in the race, and when he retires, Damon Hill will be the oldest Grand Prix driver in Formula One. And Berger is right with, as you can see, Eddie Irvine, and right with Berger is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, top 6. We're on lap 65 now out of 69. Villeneuve is still leading, of course. David Coulthard has reduced the gap by half a second to 4.7 seconds. Mika Hakkinen is still third behind Coulthard, and you're watching this battle for fourth position between Eddie Irvine's Ferrari, Gerhard Berger's Benetton, Heinz-Harald Frentzen's Williams, and Frentzen is 53 seconds ahead of Olivier Panis, who is in 7th position, the top Bridgestone runner.
Interestingly, Villeneuve allowing Nakano through there. Villeneuve really backing off, and now look how close the McLarens are. That's we saw Fisichella and the two McLarens in the background. Villeneuve letting Nakano through. How strange.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's by no means impossible that there is something awry with the Williams. His last lap time was 1 minute 26.0.
There's been nothing. I don't think there's been a problem with it up till now, but why has he allowed Nakano through? It was good to have Nakano.
He's about to let Fisichella through from the look of it, and Fisichella's got Coulthard right behind him. It looks indeed as though Villeneuve may not win the race after all, and we're on lap 65 with 66, 67, 68 and 69 to go.
There's the damaged barge board in the middle of the car underneath Villeneuve's helmet we talked about, but the gap is down
3
now.
seconds he's lost on that lap.
It was definitely, on that lap, he lost a full, more than that even, Murray. Yeah, 3.5, nearly 4 seconds. He really backed off. I don't know why he wouldn't want Nakano between him and his two pursuiters. At least he's got Fisichella still there to help him.
1.9 seconds between Jacques Villeneuve that you're looking at on lap 66 and David Coulthard, who's challenging for his third win of 1997. There he is, David Coulthard, who won in Australia, who won at Monza in Italy. Now, Fisichella is going to elbow his way past Villeneuve. This is lap 66. There's only 3 to go after this. But there's a long way in terms of time between Villeneuve, who leads, and Frentzen, who is second. Well, not all that much, come to think of it. 7.3 seconds. And Villeneuve is holding everybody up. He's going to have a wide car now. He's going to try and stop Fisichella from getting through. And Coulthard and Hakkinen, there they are, second and third. I said it was going to be a barnstorming finish, and that is exactly what it's going to be as Hakkinen challenges Coulthard. They're coming up to complete the 66th lap.
Here's a race win here for Hakkinen. He can see it, and Coulthard can see it too, and he blocks Hakkinen on the way into the last corner. Those two having their own private battle, as meanwhile...
Yes, Mika Hakkinen goes through and takes David Coulthard.
Coulthard lifted off, for sure. Coulthard lifted off. The team must have told him, let Hakkinen through. We think he's faster. For whatever reason, Coulthard had to let Hakkinen through.
Sorry, Martin. Irvine fourth, just behind them. Berger fifth, just behind him. Frentzen is in 6th position. 6 seconds. 6 seconds covers the top 6 on lap 67 out of 69. What an incredible finish. There is Coulthard. There is Coulthard behind Mika Hakkinen, who is bearing down on Jacques Villeneuve. Mika Hakkinen has yet to win a Grand Prix, and the Swede has driven in, the Finn has driven in 95 of them already. He can smell victory.
Well, Villeneuve's picked up his pace again. He's back in the 26s. And while the McLarens were squabbling over that last corner and letting each other through on the pit straight, they let the gap get back to 2.6 seconds, and it's given Villeneuve a breather. And still the Jordan is there between him and the two McLarens.
Well, now, if Hakkinen can get past Fisichella and go for Villeneuve, I hesitate to say this, but I'm going to nevertheless, Hakkinen will be very determined to win, and he will force his way through. But then Villeneuve, I'm sure, will just give way. He's much more anxious to win the championship than the race, and he's now on his 68th and last lap but one. And look at Irvine. Irvine is closing on Coulthard.
Clearly McLaren think that Hakkinen is faster. They think Coulthard had enough chances to get past Fisichella, hasn't done it. We've been talking about it. Now they've released Hakkinen and saying, you have a go at Fisichella, because for whatever reason, Villeneuve is ailing, he's limping just a little bit, but he can still respond. We're on board with Hakkinen as we move into the back straight, heading down towards the hairpin at turn 6. A good place to overtake, but he's too far behind. There's the blue flags flying. The blue flags are out. Fisichella now has to move over within 3 marshals posts to let Hakkinen through. There's the blue flags again. Yes, he does. That's allowed Hakkinen through. Now he can have a go at the back of Villeneuve's car. But it's too late. I think it's too late unless Villeneuve really does have a particular problem.
This is going to be an absolutely riveting last lap coming up as Jacques Villeneuve goes into the Senna chicane. And those are turns 10 and 11. Turn 12 is the right-hander. Turn 13 is the last corner of the track as Jacques Villeneuve turns in to start his 69th and last lap in the lead. And he's on his way to the World Championship now, without a doubt. He's on to the last lap. But Mika Hakkinen is going to try to win this race.
Well, the Ferrari fans are waving Hakkinen on now outside our window. And here we go. They're into turn 2. Villeneuve appears to have it under control. I don't see where Hakkinen is going to find that kind of time in the remaining 2.5 miles. But he'll give it a good try. There he is through 3 and 4. Coming up now to the fastest corner of the track, about 135 through the top. Villeneuve's online, no problem, keeps it inside. Hakkinen homing in on him all the time.
And 5.3 seconds covers the top 6 in this amazing race. So, Hakkinen now, right behind Jacques Villeneuve with just a few corners to go. Round the left-hander. Mika Hakkinen can see that victory, beckoning him. Look how close it is.
He's got 2 chances, a small one into the Ayrton Senna chicane, and then a big last gasp dive into the last corner. He knows Villeneuve will jump out of the way if he as much as looks at his rear wheel.
And he does it!
Let's let him through.
Hakkinen is going to win! Hakkinen is going to win his first Grand Prix in his long and meritorious career. He's coming up to the last corner. Hakkinen is going to win the European Grand Prix. David Coulthard goes second, and Jacques Villeneuve second settles for third place at the World Championship of 1997. Wow! Mika Hakkinen wins for McLaren. David Coulthard is second for McLaren. Jacques Villeneuve is third for Williams and for Renault. So Renault failed to win their last Grand Prix. Gerhard Berger fourth, Eddie Irvine fifth, Heinz-Harald Frentzen sixth, and 4.5 seconds covers the first 6. And look at the joy, the unbounded joy in the Williams area with their new world champion, Jacques Villeneuve from Canada.
The first McLaren 1-2 since Japan 91. Don't ask me to explain that last lap. It appeared to me as if Villeneuve was just backing off and letting the 2 McLarens through. I can't see the logic in that. I think he had the speed to win the race, but all he needed to do was win the World Championship. So he obviously wasn't going to put up a big fight, but it did appear to me that he was really, really cruising on that last lap. But, all the focus there on the Williams team. McLaren had a 1-2 in the race. Villeneuve finished third, but only just. Berger was just 1/10 of a second from taking Villeneuve on the line for the final podium position.
Yeah.
What was it all about?
And between Berger and Frentzen, there were only less than 2 seconds. So, in effect, Jacques Villeneuve won the World Championship by 2 seconds, because if he'd been lower than 6th, he would have lost it. But if is a big word in Formula One. If is Formula One spelled backwards. And I said anything can happen, and it usually does. There were no ifs as far as Villeneuve was concerned in just staying in the points high enough to take that World Championship. And in his 2nd year of Formula One, he has created history by winning the World Championship. A brilliant performance, and like Nigel Mansell, who won the World Championship in Formula One and the Indy Championship Jacques Villeneuve can say he's done those things, but he's gone one better than Nigel Mansell because he's also won the Indy 500. A brilliant, brilliant achievement by an absolutely superb driver, 26-year-old Jacques Villeneuve from Quebec in Canada. That's his 33rd Grand Prix. He's now won 12 of them, a magnificent finishing achievement. And what are his emotions going to be when he stops alongside his pit, gets out of the car, takes off his helmet. His car will go into Parc Fermé, where everything is checked. Villeneuve will have to get on the scales, and you look at the reception he's getting, where with his on-car camera, he's beaten Michael Schumacher in the World Championship by 4 points. Heinz-Harald Frentzen finishes 3rd in the World Championship. Lacey and Coulthard tie for 4th position, and Mika Hakkinen and Gerhard Berger tie for 6th position in the 1997 World Championship. And a very, very happy Swede or Swedish supporter is, Finnish supporter is galloping down the track with his flag in honour of Mika Hakkinen.
Into Parc Fermé now, where all of the cars will be scrutinised and checked for legality. They'll be weighed. Notice all the pickup on the tyres, on the right front tyre there of Mika Hakkinen. We've moved away from that now. As drivers, we're told to pull off line as much as we can. You can see it on Villeneuve's tyres too, to pick up as much weight as we can, just in case we've lost some fluids or something and the car is a kilo or 2 underweight. All that mush you see on the tyres is from driving offline and picking up all the discarded rubber as Hakkinen and Villeneuve embrace. What an incredible finish to the season.
Yeah, Jacques Villeneuve, a very cool, calm and deliberate individual. Well, not now. He's a very, very happy man, and so he should be. He's driven a brilliant race. One of them had to lose, Michael Schumacher or Jacques Villeneuve. It was a fair fight. It was lap 48 when, having dominated the race between them with first one leading and then the other, Villeneuve takes the championship. But if ever a win was richly deserved, it's that of Mika Hakkinen. It's his 96th Grand Prix, and it's taken him nearly a century of Formula One races to get that coveted first place. Out onto the podium in that coveted position, the top step, with Coulthard alongside him in the second step, but with Jacques Villeneuve on the podium again. Third place, 4 points, quite enough to beat the man who's taken the World Championship twice already by 5 points. Here's the replay.
Here's the replay. This is going to be interesting as Hakkinen, who's brilliantly homed in, he dispatched Fisichella, now homed in onto the back of Villeneuve. Villeneuve slows early for the chicane, and well, it's very, very easy, wasn't it? Candy from a baby, that one. We thought Villeneuve would jump out of the way at any sign of trouble, and he's looking in his mirror. Look, there's some kind of arrangement going on there, because Villeneuve's looking in his mirror saying, well, come on then. And 2 McLaren drivers, 1 and 2 on the podium, and Jacques Villeneuve, the new world champion.
Well done, Mika. And now the national anthem.
Amazing race, what an amazing night. And of course the constructors' anthem will play, but remember, this man probably should have died in Adelaide, and here he is on the winner's podium. Amazing, AJ, when you look at that. I mean, take your mind back to Adelaide.
Certainly was. I mean, that was a great result. I mean, to be perfectly honest, for Villeneuve to win the World Championship, for Williams to win the Constructors, and for Mika Hakkinen to win his first Grand Prix, that was the result I think was, you know, my favourite result.
The monkey's off his back well and truly now for Mika Hakkinen and Jacques Villeneuve. What an extraordinary talent.
Well, he certainly is. Consider he's won the Indianapolis 500, he's won the IndyCar Championship, he's won Form Atlantic Championship, and now he's the 1997 World Champion. So he hasn't had a really long racing career, but he certainly packed a lot into it.
Sure has, and what a way to win this. What an incredible race. I can't remember a Formula One season that's been as good as this for at least 10 years.
I mean, full credit to Ferrari. The way in which they fought back Williams, I think, was fantastic. Michael Schumacher, without any doubt, is the best driver in Formula One. I think he's head and shoulders above anybody, and thank God he's not in a Williams, otherwise the whole thing would be very boring. And I think that, you know, what he did today, quite frankly, is a bit of a shame. I mean, I stick to my guns to what he did in Adelaide. I thought he deliberately had Damon Hill off there, and he got away with it. Today he didn't.
I totally agree, and I think anybody with any interest in motorsport sitting around the world watching that would be saying exactly the same thing. There's the Ferrari flag flying so close on their 50th anniversary to taking out the championship. That man was going to spoil a party. And what a way he did it too, with just sheer ability. He was so careful. He let the race unfold the way it was going to unfold. The championship was the thing that he wanted. And you raced against his dad, Gilles Villeneuve. I mean, wow, if there is a big pit garage up there in Evan, it'll be a pretty happy place at the moment.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, his dad was a real racer too. I mean, if ever you wanted to try and pass Gilles, you really had to earn it, because there's no way to ever wave you past.
Yeah, terrific stuff, isn't it? And that's traditions of motorsport and what they're building. All right, we'll take a break. Remember, when we come back, we'll have the press conference for you, and we've also got the Williams story in the museum. Lots more to come. And let's go straight down to the interviews now, because this is going to be very interesting. Here we go.
I think the whole race was interesting from start to finish. Me, anyway. I think I lost some time. In behind the Jack in the start of the race. And, I obviously wanted to go quicker, but it was again would be far too risky to try to make any maneuver to try to overtake him, because obviously he's fighting from the, well, not anymore, but from the championship. So I decided to more or less stay behind him, and yeah, I would say coming to the last couple of laps, it was pretty incredible. It was one of the Jordans front of us, and Jack was there, and obviously David was front of me, and I would say it was, from my side, it was fantastic.
At what point during the race did you suddenly think, well, maybe I can win this race today?
I never would think that way. I never would win. Always in my mind.
So literally in the last lap, you suddenly had the opportunity.
Yeah, I think I had opportunity, and end of the day, I don't know exactly what happened, but a strange place to overtake David. But it was for my benefit. It was fantastic.
Well, Mika, well done. Well, David, you won the first race of the season. It's a nice result for you to be here today.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be on the podium for the last race. That was my goal, and you know, obviously from a team point of view, delighted that we've had a 1-2. I think we had a little bit of help from Jack in the end, and I let Mika through to give him a chance to push, because I couldn't make any headway into the Jordan, and he was obviously able to make use of that when Jack let him through at the chicane.
Did the whole race go to plan? I mean, was the pit stop strategy all fine?
Yeah, once again, the team were, I think, pretty fantastic in the pit stops. I don't believe that anyone would be as quick as us today. My in laps I was very happy with, my out laps, and that helped me gain some track position as well.
David, well done. Well, Jacques, 1997 has been a season of up and down for you, and your third position today gives you the result you were wanting.
Yeah, the championship feels great now. It's been an up and down season. We've been the most competitive team since the beginning of the season, but there's been many races where we didn't get the job done. I made a few mistakes, the team made a few mistakes, and then somehow things didn't go right when they should have gone right. So to win it here after the disqualification of Suzuka feels great. I was a little bit worried 20 laps from the end because when I overtook Michael, well, I wasn't really surprised when he finally decided to turn in on me. It was a little bit expected, so you know, I knew I was taking a big risk. But when he turned in on me, we banged wheels and I jumped in the air and I really thought I'd broken the car. Luckily he went off and my car felt very strange. The rear end, mostly on right-handers, didn't feel very stable. I could push for a few laps, but then I had to slow down because the tires were heating up in a strange way. And I could keep on doing that push, then slow down, push, then slow down, and then toward the end, Nakano was in my mirrors, and I didn't want to have to look in the mirrors all the time, so I let him by, and everybody got closer to me, and then Mika got very close to me, and he didn't want to be part of the fight at the beginning of the race when he was quicker, and he stayed out of the battle later on in the race. So when he was in my mirrors, there was a question of either pushing like a maniac and risking to go off with the way the car was handling, or seeing if he made a move to just let him through, and he made a move, and then David was very close, so you know, I didn't fight it either.
How quickly did you find out that Michael Schumacher had actually stopped on the circuit? Were you told on the radio?
No, I knew it right away because the way he hit me was really, really hard. I'm surprised that I could actually finish the race. You know, I couldn't go more on the inside. I was actually on the grass. So, you know, either Michael had his eyes closed or somehow his hands slid on the steering or something.
For most of the race, or for the first half of the race, Michael seemed to have the advantage, and then suddenly you became competitive halfway through. Can you think of any reason why that happened? Yeah,
Michael had 3 sets of new tires and we had only 2. We started the race with old tires, and I don't know how he managed to make a start because it was very slippery, and I had a lot of wheel spin even though it wasn't a bad start, and Michael just took off like a rocket. So you know, that was very surprising and frustrating. And then Heinz was on the inside, and so I didn't close the door on him. I just let him through. And after a few laps, I don't know, he must have had some problem. I don't know, he started slowing down, and then it was just a question of fighting against Michael. But he already had 5 seconds lead, and I was pushing all the way. It was a very tough race. I just couldn't get closer to him until we got to the newer tires.
Now, having won the IndyCar Championship, how does today's result compare to that?
Today feels great. In IndyCar, I had led the season most of the way, and it was just a question of keeping that lead. And here, most of the season, we fought back until the race before Suzuka, where we finally got the lead back when it didn't look like we were going to get the lead back. Then we lost it again, and we came here 1 point behind. The pressure was high. We had to fight back. We were the underdog, basically, and that's always been the best position for us to fight from.
At any point during the race, did you think, I've lost it, I'm not gonna get in front of Michael?
The first set, it didn't look good because I was pushing and I just couldn't catch Michael. 1 lap he would go slower, 1 lap I would go slower, and we'd just play like that the whole first stint, and I just couldn't seem to catch him. And you know, it was becoming a physical race also because it was qualifying laps the whole way through. And this is one of the most difficult races. But as soon as we put the new tires and I got close to him, I thought, okay, now I can make a move. But then somehow we hit Minardi, who opened the door very wide for Michael and decided to stay in front of me. You know, they're using the same engine, so I guess it has something to do with it. Decided to block me for half a lap, and Michael got another 3-second lead, and it was very difficult to catch him until the second pit stop, where somehow his tires didn't seem to work.
Okay, well done, Jacques. Now, what are your plans for this evening?
A big party, basically, with the whole team.
Well done. Mika, a good season for McLaren overall?
Definitely. I think we finished like we started it, more or less, and we should have, I hope we could have continued that type of route all the way through the year. Unfortunately, we weren't able to compete in very fast start of the season, but we were developing a car very fast, and also the Mercedes was still developing engine very fast, and we were obviously catching everybody just race after race. And we just realized one day we were able to do the pole position. We were quickest very often, and we were able to start winning races. And like this, you know, I think the development has gone in the right direction. We have a good people in the team, good package, good drivers. What else you need? So I'm looking forward for next year.
Mika, well done. Now can we have some comment on the race in your own language?
Yeah, we'll leave the press conference there. Some very interesting comments there. I mean, I'm so pleased for Mika. I made a comment about Adelaide before. I mean, when you think how serious that accident was, and it was only the Australian doctors and how quickly they acted that actually saved his life, and now he's finally got that monkey off the back and had that win. And I mean, he's just got a lovely way about him, hasn't he?
There was some very interesting body language from Coulthard too.
Coulthard's not too happy.
I think he's a bit filthy, actually.
I think he was asked to move over.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And I think when you think that we saw the two bosses going in and out of each other's motorhomes and garages, there was certainly some form of deal done there where the two teams worked together.
Yeah, I think Jacques sort of said it all when he said that they'd left him alone at the beginning of the race, and I think he sort of paid them back towards the end.
And I think he was quite convinced that Michael did drive into him.
Very diplomatic. He said he either had his eyes closed or his hands slipped.
All right, well, let's have a look at the points. It doesn't really matter now because the championship's won. I'm going to take you through the Williams Museum, a very special place, AJ, the best I've ever seen, without question. And AJ actually puts his backside back in the championship car. Stay with us. Just. Welcome back. It's still nice to have your company wherever you're watching us run around Australia. Now, a very special moment for AJ, because even though it was a new factory, it's probably your most favourite place in England, which is the Williams factory.
So I've been accused by several people. Yeah, I mean, the new factory, it's the first time I've seen it. And when we were driving down the road and came across it for the first time, I just couldn't believe it was the Williams factory. I thought it was you know, some huge manufacturing assembly plant or something. It was just, I couldn't believe the size of it.
Let's take you right over there now for the first time in Australia, in one of the rare tours with a camera anywhere in the world. We'll take you and have a look through the Williams Museum. Yep. Well, it's taken us a while, AJ, but here we are, Williams, the new factory.
Unbelievable. Look at it. I mean, just typical Frank too. The detail of everything is just immaculate.
Yeah. Look at this. Lawns, gardens and racing cars. Our sort of place.
Can't be bad, Daz.
Wow, look at the floor, isn't it? Amazing, beautiful.
All Italian ceramics.
Have a look at this, though. Well, there it is. Isn't that impressive in the foyer? Looks fantastic.
I'd love it in the lounge room or something.
This is a big place, AJ. I mean, what would it cost to run something like this?
Well, there's about 250 people. It costs about $100 million a year to operate. That's obviously not operating just the building, it's the racing of the two cars. But if you think about it, they build 6 chassis a year, operating 2 consistently or 3 in the European races, a test team, but the people to build them and develop them and all of it, about $100 million a year.
End result, of course, 6 World Championships, 8 Constructors' Championships. Look at these trophies. This one here, that's the Australian Championship trophy. And I tell you what, a lot of people wouldn't have seen it that close. Isn't it beautiful?
It's fabulous. And Jane was saying before, of all the trophies, that I know this sounds very biased, but she was saying that that's the one that actually gets the most attention. And it is. It's a fabulous looking trophy.
There's the old steering wheel, Southern Cross, the diamonds on it. Come on, mate, I can't wait. Let's have a look around.
All right, come on, I'll show you the museum. Wow, look at this.
This will be a trip down memory lane for you, AJ.
Absolutely, look at that, gee.
And down there, look at that, there's the white number 27.
Yep, that's FW06, which was the first Williams, and that was the car that actually got me to drive for Williams. Frank rang me up and said, come up, I want to meet you. I met him on the motorway. We came up here to the factory, well, not this factory, it was about quarter the size, and that was the very first Williams. And it was after talking to Patrick Head for a couple of hours that I thought, right, well, this is the crew that I want to get involved with. And this was the first one.
Well, you talk about this car with really fond memories, don't you? You really like this car.
Well, I do. It was the last of the conventional Formula One cars. The ground effects cars had already come in, the Lotus 78. This didn't have any skirts like FW07, but it was a fantastic little car. It was really good fun to drive. It was very quick in a straight line. We had some really good races at places like Hakkinen and what have you. Should have won Long Beach. I had the front nose cone collapse, and I was still having a real good old dice with Reutemann in the Ferrari, but then electrical problems finally got me, and we finished about 6th, but we were really up there dicing for the lead.
They look tiny by today's standards, but look at the detail work. That's still your oxygen line, isn't it?
Yeah, well, when you sat in the car, this plugged into the side of your helmet, and that had medical air, not oxygen, because oxygen obviously burns. So they had a medical air bottle, so in the case of a fire, that was forcing air into your helmet, which helped you breathe. But, I mean, yeah, we thought that was all pretty sophisticated stuff, but of course, as we go through the museum and have a look at the other cars, it sort of pales into insignificance a bit.
Let's move on a bit.
Okay, well, this is FW07, which was the very first ground effects car that Williams ever had. It was quite state-of-the-art in its day. It had the sliding skirts and so forth, and we had some very good results in this car in 1979. But when we move on to FW07B, by the way, this is a monocoque. This is something that you hear us referring to all the time. This is an aluminium one. Of course, today they're carbon fibre. But this is what is the monocoque. The driver sits in here, the fuel goes in there, the roll bar, and everything else just gets bolted onto this monocoque. All the suspension, the engine goes on the back. So as long as the driver is strapped in here and stays in here, particularly in this day and age with carbon fibre, this is his little cocoon, this is his little safety area.
Now, this car here, really, really interesting, but you know how many times we've talked about the number 27? It's a number that's associated with Gilles Villeneuve, and yet you had a lot of success with this number.
Well, yeah, I mean, I won the World Championship in this car with this number, and it was because we won the World Championship, then we went to number 1 and 2. Well, Williams went to 1 and 2, and 27 then went on to Ferrari, and they've basically had it ever since. But this was a true ground effects car. It was a continuation of the 07. You can see here the sliding skirts, which literally are sprung. And the idea of that was to keep them on the ground at all times with a ceramic base. The idea being is that the air would come through here, go through an inverted wing, virtually an aircraft upside down, and then these skirts would make sure that the air was not escaping out from the side. It was being channeled all the way down through here and then escaping out the back of the car. So it would literally suck the car onto the ground the quicker that you went. So the cornering speeds of these cars were unbelievable, and the commitment into the corner was quite good because you could go very deep into the corner, turn, and the car would carry its speed through because of this ground effects. But the thing you had to really watch, if you ever went over a curb or you damaged one of your skirts or you broke a couple of springs and that skirt stuck up for whatever reason, you'd lose 15 or 20% of your downforce. You'd enter the corner at the same time, same speed as the lap before, bang, you were off.
What about we try and get in it?
Oh dear. All right, I'll give it a go, but I tell you what, I'm a bit broader. There's been a few pints passed through this little body since since I've been in here.
I've got a lottery ticket, you'll get in just.
Oh, I'll get in, come what may, but...
For a lottery ticket you will. There you are, easy. Look at this. Wow, well done. How's that feel?
It's a little tight. A little tight around the bum. But I'd go on a diet if I had to.
Great memories?
Yeah, fantastic, yeah.
This your favourite car?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is the car that I won the World Championship in, so... You know, to say otherwise would be lying.
Well, now we're going to see something totally different, and I reckon a car that's going to surprise a lot of people. You know, I always associate a six-wheel car with a Tyrrell.
Yeah, well, of course, the Tyrrell had its 4 wheels at the front. This has got them at the back, but it's all about drag, because the rear wheels of a modern Formula One car are huge. So Patrick thought, A, he'd get more rubber on the ground, but he would decrease the frontal area, and therefore he basically had much narrower, 4 narrower rear tyres rather than 2 big fat ones. But
did you ever drive this?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I won the Las Vegas Grand Prix at the end of '81, and Frank said I wanted to go straight back home. He said, no, come on over to England, I want you to test the 6-wheeler at Donington, thinking that, you know, once I drove the 6-wheeler, I'd be thinking, yeah, well, this is a bit of me. And I tested it at Donington, and it didn't really feel any different. It was quicker down the straight. It subsequently went on to be developed a little bit more into this style of car, and they took it down to Paul Ricard to continue the testing. It was obviously looking like it was going to be fairly successful because they quickly banned it.
Isn't that the story of progression?
Absolutely.
Hey, Joe, have I had too many pints, or we're not the only foreigners here in this factory? Because that looks very much like a Ferrari to me.
Yeah, it's very much the cat amongst the pigeons, isn't it? It's quite an intriguing story about this car. Even though it's got Alain Prost's name on it, Jean Alesi actually signed a contract to drive for Frank. Then, subsequently, was offered a drive by Ferrari. So he went to Frank and said, look, Frank, you know, in my heart, I really want to go with Ferrari. This is my breeding, blah, blah, blah. So Frank's eventually said, yeah, okay, look, no problems. You can go and drive a Ferrari, but I want a Ferrari at the end of the year. So good to his word, at the end of that season, he delivered this over to Frank.
Stands out a bit, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Not a bad-looking thing to have hanging around, though, is it?
You got that right. Well, Jonesy, here's another unusual car. This is a rally car.
It is. It was commissioned by British Leyland to Patrick Head to do a rally car, and whilst not the prettiest thing on the road, once again, like a lot of Patrick's design, it was that successful that they banned it.
Yeah, he certainly built some weapons.
Not pretty.
Well, AJ, the last of the turbo-powered cars. Wow, what an era.
It certainly was. 1.5 litres turbo in qualifying trim, about 1,100 brake horsepower. Just absolutely awesome to see during qualifying. You'd see these cars wheel spinning in 3rd and 4th gear. Quite incredible.
You notice too, no airbox. I mean, it's just such a clean line.
Well, and that also helped the rear wing work that much better because you didn't have as much bodywork to upset the air onto the rear wing. But of course, this was the last year for Williams and Honda and turbo. The following year, you could run normally aspirated or turbo, but if you did run turbo, you had to run 40 kilos heavier. You didn't have as much fuel to play with as the previous year. And so they decided that they would go normally aspirated. Judd supplied the engines. It wasn't a terribly successful year for them because the turbos still proved to be superior, even with the restrictions that they had. But the Judd got them through that year, and then, of course, the year after, they went to Renault.
Yeah, and straight away, we go back normally aspirated, we've got an airbox.
Absolutely, feeding that engine.
Well, Jonesy, this story, I mean, it continues right around the factory. I mean, there's so many cars, so many things to say, but there it is. I mean, it ends right there with a car that won the championship last year.
Absolutely, the FW18. So it starts at the very beginning and goes in an anti-clockwise all the way around the hall, ends up back here with the championship-winning car. But what's fascinating for me, Daz, is to see the subtleties of change during the courses of the years, just the little aerodynamic changes, and it's just fascinating.
Well, this car, of course, Damon Hill won the championship in. It looks so much bigger than the first car that you drove.
Well, the wheelbase, they seem to be a lot longer in the wheelbase, and they just seem to be a much bigger car. Obviously a lot narrower at the front and a lot higher, but yeah, amazing.
Amazing is an understatement. The museum is home to a priceless collection of engineering achievement. A collection forged by the most successful constructor in Formula One history, Williams.
Yeah, amazing place. I mean, and for you folks at home, I mean, that's only part of that story. There are so many cars there, plus all the drivers' helmets are encased. We could only show you so much.
Yeah, and what was a big surprise, not long after that we went down to the touring car factory, which is down at Didcot, some 20-odd miles away where the original Williams factory used to be. And we were wandering around the back, and I walked into a room with you, and there was something like another 14 Formula Ones there all undercover waiting to find a home.
I think you're supposed to say something about those.
Oh, really?
Jane Gorard, part of the media PR department from Williams. We'd like to thank Jane in England because she set up the interviews we had with Patrick, the interviews we had with Frank Williams, the day we spent there in the museum, the whole thing, going down to see the touring cars. Jane, thank you very much because you're going to be seeing this in England. I mean, it was just fantastic. I mean, they couldn't have been any more helpful for us.
Oh, no. I mean, it's to me, to be able to go back and see the way that Williams have evolved from the original factory
factory to where we've just been was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and of course we mentioned there eight Constructors' Championships, well that's 9 now, and we said it finished with that car, which was Damon Hill's car sitting there. Well, now that'll finish with Jacques Villeneuve's car, so all of that story's been added to in the last few weeks, in fact the last few hours.
Well, as I said to Frank when I was there, I mean, you really are going to have to build a bigger museum because he's running out of room already.
No doubt. All right, well, it's been a fantastic season, there's no doubt about it. One of the best we've seen for a long, long time. Now, don't forget the Australian Formula 1 Grand Prix from Melbourne. That's on March the 7th and 8th. That's in 1998, of course. And we've got some brand new motorsport coming your way. This is from ISC's World of Motorsport. It's every Saturday morning commencing on November the 8th. Check your local guides. It should be around 5 a.m. in the morning. Now, the idea of this, you'll see some truck racing, you'll see Formula 3000. There'll be a lot of rally driving as well with part of the World Championship. So all in all, it's a pretty good program and you're going to see a lot of motorsport there. So keep your eye on your programs right around Australia and have a look at that.
You'll be able to come in and watch that after you run.
No doubt about it. I'll be there and I'll be fit too. Great season, hasn't it been? Great night, great way to finish it. And I think just the fact that we've been able to personalise the season with Williams and Ferrari and all the things we've been able to do has been great.
Well, I think it's shaping up to be good for next year as well because Ferrari certainly haven't finished. They're going to get stronger. Williams are going to try and keep the mantle in its place. McLaren are coming on leaps and bounds. We've got new drivers in different teams. I'm really looking forward to it.
All right, safe trip home to everybody. We'll see you next time round on Nine's Wide World of Sports.